to Tashay the other day, when I am in a carryback for investments, I pretend to be Samir as much as possible. When I'm in a QA and I'm closing life, I pretend to be Shaq as much as possible. When I'm recruiting the client, I pretend to be Shay. So I pretend to be you, Shay, because you got recruited over the kitchen table and you talk about it all the time. So you guys may not be the best, but just like singing in the shower, you can be Beyonce in the shower. Nobody's going to judge you, right? But nobody knows what you sound like either. But hey, listen, pretend to be that person that you're following and act like them, talk like them, walk like them as much as you can, because you're going to get what they have. The results is what I'm talking about. So yeah, thank you, Shay, for everything. And so let's move on
You're
to the 10
welcome.
real quick. Yeah. So I love Shay, guys. You guys under Shay, she may be tough on you guys, but it's all out of love. Trust me. But yeah, so when you recruit a client, and don't misconstrue what we're saying. We're not saying only focus on clients, okay? You want to recruit everyone, but just know when you recruit the client, that's quality appointments. Instead of going on appointments where somebody's not qualified like me, okay? If nobody recruited me, I wouldn't be here, obviously, and it's been a blessing in disguise. But if you're recruiting somebody that's not qualified, you're going to get more of the appointments that are not qualified either. You're going to get more of the appointments that are funny. They don't have bank and routing information. They live, in Section 8. And I'm talking about myself, okay? So I'm not making fun of anybody. And this is the real deal, Holyfield. But when you recruit over the kitchen table, you're getting quality appointments that are attached to that, right? Joey is a client, was a client, started basically as a client. And she took me on 26 training appointments. You heard it. Shay went on 22 training appointments as she started as a client. And the people, and Shug was a client, right? Now Shug learned a lot faster, and she, wanted to push me out from training her, quicker. And she just went independent even quicker. So, Shug, diamond in the rough, right? But nothing happened unless I was able to challenge all the teammates to show up. Shug lived in Baltimore when she started, and she's not technically allowed to drive, and her husband has to drive because they're a team right there, and they make it work the best way I could ever even imagine. But when she had to come from Baltimore, in my mind I said, no, if I do not at least challenge Shug to come and show up to Saturday morning training, Thursday night training, where we were having Thursday or whatever day it was, that means I don't believe enough in her that she's going to be great, right? You got to be able to challenge people, because your attendance is your leadership, and your leadership and the size of your attendance determines the level of belief you guys have in your business. I never forget it when we used to have fast start meetings, fast start school. Sorry, we haven't had one in such a long time. I forgot what they're called. But Bruce got on stage and he said, the amount of tickets that your belief level in your business is represented by the amount of tickets you sell, because we used to have to sell tickets to get people to show up. So if that's true, that's what all he's saying is your attendance equals the level of belief in your business. Where's your attendance, right? If it's dropping, you got to invite more, right? The bigger your attendance, the bigger leadership, which means you have more leaders sprouting up. And 20% do 80% of the work. So your first goal is having 10 showing up. That way it's not only you doing all the work. Think about it. 20% of 10 is 2. Anything less than that is 1. 20% of 10 showing up is 2 people. Anything less than that is 1. And if you have less than 10 showing up, guess who the 1 person is that's doing all the work? You. So that's why if you have less than 10 people showing up, you're frustrated because you're doing all the work and you're killing yourself, right? And you're burning out and stuff like that. So you got to have more than 10. That is a non-negotiable. The first 10 is not going to be that easy. It's going to be a stretch, just like anything. The first time you do anything, it's going to feel like a stretch. I remember when we had 4 people showing up, I saw people having 10. I was like, oh, that's simple, but it really wasn't. It was simple, but it wasn't easy, because this is a volunteer army. And yes, do you have to call people in the morning and be like, where you at? Yes. Do you have to remind people when training is? Yes. Do you have to call and text people every single week to remind them why showing up is? Yes. Right. But and is that convenient? No. But that's why the people who deal with the inconveniences get paid, If you're not willing to do that, then you don't want the override. That's all. Either you want the override or you don't, right? And the overrides come with front end work. The importance has to be communicated through the team. If we're not consistently communicating, showing up to people, which is the lowest level commitment. People are not going to get it. They don't know. When they come in a job, they expect to be told what to do. And strong people want to be told what to do. Weak people need to be told what to do. So either way, you have to tell them to show up, right? Saturday is the basic commitment. That is the utmost basic. Friday morning, that's your real team. And then your drill for skill, your blitz team, your team that shows up to virtual office. You know what Shaq told me? Shaq said, the team that shows up to virtual office, that's the team that's going to get you to 30 by 30. And you know what's crazy? The people that show up, and I'll shout them out right now. Chantel, Cheryl, Bao, and Tashay. Those are the only ones, Shay, that really show up consistently to virtual office with me. And they're the ones that pushed on month end, right? Including Joey, but Joey's at her job, until she goes full time. But those are the only people that literally show up to virtual office. Out of 50 more or less people that we have showing up, like that's the team right there. That's the real team. That's the team that literally got us a 30 by 30,000. Everyone else did a little bit here, a little bit there. But when Shaq said that, I was like, wow, I know who to hone in on. I know who to focus on. I know who to work on. I know who's willing and who's not willing as much. I know who I can coach. I know who I'm not able to coach. I know who will listen. I know who won't listen as much. I know who will take it and won't take it. Just like I take it from Shaq every single time, But when he said that, that was so eye-opening. But if you don't show up, we're not able to work with you. That's it, right? Just like what I mentioned, they don't show up. People don't show up to Blitz. Yeah, they're not booking appointments. How are you supposed to teach somebody to do an appointment if they don't even book the appointment to go on? So these next conversations, know these small conversations, guys. These conversations here that I honed in on getting better with, these really helped me grow our Zoom environment. And, now we're stagnant, but our goal is 100 people showing up. So there's a couple of small conversations here, but where the expectation starts is the follow-up meeting. So when you invite some people to a person to a webinar, or guest to a webinar, or they watch the animated video, you meet with them immediately right after. Why? When somebody sees the opportunity, how excited are they? But the longer you take to meet back up with them, what does their excitement start to look like? It starts to diminish and go down, right? So you want to meet with them immediately. When you meet with them, you want to go over some questions about, answer their questions and figure out if they're ready to get started or not. Then you go through the prerequisites. So there's only 4 prerequisites. One is background check, then the two exams for life and securities, life and investments, then the money commitment, $124, or this month, $74 for first responders. And that's the $49 plus $25, guys. And then Saturday morning training. So I'm going to sound contradictory in a second. You want to get the IBA, but just because you get the IBA, that's not the most important. The most important is them showing up. You want to get the IBA, you want to get the credit, you want to recruit them because you want some skin in the game, right? So, if they put in 124, they feel like they got something to lose, right? But if they really don't have it right there, I'm more focused on them showing up, because once they show up, they're really recruited. I want to mentally recruit them. Just because they put in 124 doesn't mean they're recruited on paper. That's all. So let's say that they don't have 124. Let's say I know that they don't work and they just went on this webinar. I do a takeaway. This is not on the screen, but this has been working every single time. And it doesn't mean that they're going to send the IBA in every single time, but it means at least I can get a commitment for the 124 every single time. Okay. But more likely than not, when I do this takeaway, they're more willing to give up the 124 than not. So when I know somebody's not working a job, right? I don't want to ask upfront for the 124 directly. Like, I don't want to be like, hey, can you do the 124 today? I'm not going to ask that. I'm going to say, once we get through the life and securities exams and they don't have any text anxiety, we get that out the way, they're fine with the exams. Last but not least, Tanya, is the dollar commitment, the money commitment, your financial commitment. So we're going to pay for 90% of the cost. We're going to take care of the licensing process, the license itself, and getting you in all these classes. But the only thing that you're responsible for is your part of your background check and your study material. And that's only $124 on your part. Now, I know you don't work, so I'm not concerned about that the most, but you eventually do have to pay it. So how would you even take care of the 124 and get your licensing done if you don't work? I just asked it just like that, because I want to know if they're capable of finding a solution, right? Don't you want people like that on your team, right? So then I get that out the way, whether they, are committing to submitting it today or later. If they say, oh, well, not today, but I can definitely get it tomorrow. Okay, great. So now I know in my mind what to do next with them. I'm playing chess. But immediately I say, great. So we can do that tomorrow. But the most important, last but not least, the most important is your time commitment. The only fixed schedule, Tanya, we have where everything else is flexible is Saturday morning for your class and training from 9:20 a.m. to 11 a.m. Is that going to be a conflict for you? And I just wait. That's all I say. Most of the time they say no. If they don't, and they say it is kind of like a conflict, I work on Saturday morning. Listen, they are there for a reason. They got on the webinar for a reason. If they love their job so much and they're retiring it, they would not be on the webinar. Think about it, okay? They came to you for a solution to the nightmare that they live in. So why wouldn't you shoot your shot and be like, can you move your schedule? Right? What's the worst that can happen? They say no. What's the worst that can happen? They don't submit their IBA still, right? Either way, you're not going to get the IBA if you're not going to get it, right? So, hey, do you have a pretty good relationship with your boss? Yeah. I mean, we don't have any conflicts. Okay. If you told him that you had school Saturday morning and you had studies to get your certifications done, your degree done, would he be against that? No, not at all. Okay, great. That's what I want you to do, is make sure that you fix your schedule with your boss, your supervisor who does your schedule, and then Saturday morning won't be a conflict, right? Yeah, I can do that. I can talk to him. Great. Awesome. We can move forward with the orientation, and we can move forward with a fast start meeting, right? Shay, anything to add to that? No, Shay, you're on mute. Okay, so the fast start meeting. Next, when we're talking about showing up in the fast start meeting, again, we have to be repetitive with this. People they're not used to showing up Saturday morning. They're not used to creating their own schedule. They're not used to running their own schedule. They're not used to being their own boss. So you have to consistently, give them the responsibility, small responsibility of showing up, big but small. So in the fast start meeting, the first page that we're going through is setting the attendance expectations, right? The expectations in general, but I really hone in on the attendance. So first, we're going to talk about communication and building that 5 to 10 minute relationship. 2, we're going to talk about coachability, and I'm going to ask them if I have permission to coach them. And then 3 is showing up. Last but not least, Mr. New Recruit, CO, is always show up. You see it's in bold, so you definitely want to put a star next to that. Showing up is the lowest level commitment. If you don't show up, I'm not able to spend any time with you, because that would not send the right message to the other teammates with it. And also, if you don't show up, I just have to cancel all your client appointments. Now, I understand that there are emergencies. If you have a funeral, or you fell down the steps and broke an ankle, have COVID, or have to go to the hospital, just text me eventually and let me know you're alive. But if your dog ate your homework, you have a fight with your significant other, or you forgot to do your laundry, that's probably not a good idea to skip training, is it, CO? So just make sure you show up, and these are the times that we show up. And then when you click on the next page, you reiterate what you went through in the follow-up, right? We show up at 9:20 because showing up on time is late. Showing up early is on time, right? And so I'm going to call on, really quick, who is Joey. So I'm going to call on Joey, because Joey is getting ready to learn how to do her own fast start meetings. Joey, So I just want you to read this, okay? So you get used to saying this, right? So I'm your new recruit, right? You just went over coachability. Ask me, do you have permission to coach me? And then move on to the next paragraph you see.
Okay. Good morning, Jen. Do I have permission to coach you?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So last but not least, I need you to always show up. You see, it's in, oh, I messed up. Showing up is the lowest level of commitment. If you don't show up, I'm not going to be able to spend any time with you because that will not send the right message to other teammates, would it?
No.
Right. And also, if you don't show up, I just cancel all of your client appointments. Now, I do understand that there are emergencies. If you have a funeral or you fell down the steps and broke an ankle, or if you have COVID or you have to go to the hospital, just text me and let me know that you're alive, okay?
Yep.
But if your dog ate your homework, or you have a fight with your significant other, or you forgot to do your laundry, that probably is not a good idea to skip training, is it?
No.
So make sure you show up, and these are the times that we show up.
Okay, good. So what did Joey just do? She made me agree with her that it's not okay not to show up. That's literally what you're doing. Because people, when they say that they're going to do something, right? They expect you to take them seriously. So take them seriously. Take their word, right? Now in your mind, you know that not everybody keeps their word. When people say they're going to do something, they don't do it. But they want you to treat them like that. You to treat them like that. They want you to take them seriously, right? So when I have permission to coach you, right? If Joey says, yeah, absolutely, and she's agreeing with me on everything, she says she's going to show up, awesome, we got the commitment, and she doesn't show up, now I got permission to call her out on her BS. I do. Because she wants me to take her seriously. So if she says she's going to do something and I don't take her seriously, that would offend her, wouldn't it? Right? So I'm going to take her seriously, right? It's either you want to be taken seriously or you don't want to be taken seriously, right? So and the only way you can do this, guys, is if you keep your word too. Think about it, right? You got to have integrity too. Because if you don't do what you're supposed to do and what you say you're going to do, your people are going to act the same way times two, right? So let's say that we are not at the fast start meeting. Let's say we haven't done the follow-up, right? So this is something that I put together so we could invite our clients and just recruits in general to Saturday morning, assuming today is like Thursday or Friday, okay? And they're not able to make it to the webinar for whatever reason and whatever. But let's say that we're inviting them to Saturday morning straight up and they haven't seen the webinar, or they have seen the webinar, or they just need to think about it. Whatever it is, you're not getting an IBA. So if someone's thinking about the opportunity, you're in the QA, they're like hemming and hawing, they're like, oh, let me think about it, Shay. Sounds like a great opportunity. I don't know if I could do it, right? Listen, I do not need you to make any decision today, Mr. and Mrs. Client, because I'm not ready to make a decision with you either. We have a training this Saturday, though, specifically that our vice president allows guests to come be a fly on the wall. This way you can see our environment and how you'll be trained. That way you have full information to think on, which is what you would need, wouldn't you? So I'll send you the Zoom ID. All I need for you to do is log in with your name and video, or else I won't be able to count you. And when our vice president splits us, go to Samir's Zoom room and just take notes. I can report what value, you can report what value you learned, and then we can talk afterwards. Sounds good? Now, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I don't need you to make any decisions today because I'm not ready to make a decision with you either. We have a training this Saturday specifically that our vice president allows special clients to come be a fly on the wall. That way you can see our environment and how you'll be trained. That way you can have full information to think on, which is what you would need, wouldn't you? I'll send you the Zoom ID. All I need for you is log in with your name and video, or else we won't be able to count you. And when our vice president splits us, just go to Samir's Zoom and take notes so you can report what value you learned. You're going to get a lot of stuff about investments, financial education, and I give them a little bit, right, guys? Let me read this again and read it a different way. Hey, Jonathan, I don't need you to make any decisions today because I'm not ready to make one either with you. We have a training this Saturday specifically that our vice president allows really qualified candidates to come to be a fly on the wall. You can say whatever you want to make them feel special, okay? Fill in the blank and make them feel special. They don't have to be just a regular guest, okay? People want to feel special. So when you say specific clients, qualified candidates, or something that makes them feel like, wow, she is choosing me and no one else, right? It just makes them feel a certain way in a positive way. So this is what I use if I'm in the follow-up and they're hemming and hawing, and tomorrow is Saturday. So maybe I'm not going to book them for the orientation yet with Samir. I'll book them live with Samir. I'll book them live to come to training. Think about the psychology behind this. And this is the people that were in Primerica before, in our company before COVID, you'll understand what I'm saying. Because those of you guys who came in during the Zoom era, you may not have this visual yet. But we used to have trainings in person, believe it or not. And we would have guests come to training. And in the beginning, the guests would see the environment, feel the environment. They caught the environment. They were the right person. And we would split them to Shaq, right? We wouldn't split them to Samir, but we would split them eventually. But during the time, they get a feel of the environment, the recognition, they get a taste of that. And then, just like a Shug who came to a fast start school with me, she got a little taste, a couple hours of a fast start school. She didn't even see the opportunity for real. She just saw the recognition, right? The right person is going to respond. And they see the recognition. They're like, I don't know what this is, but it seems like they like what they're doing. They love what they're doing. I'm going to figure it out, right? But this seems great. Then they see the education Samir goes through, and Samir is very precise and very, very just great with the way that he teaches. And who doesn't want to learn about investments? Think about it, right? So, anyways, any questions or anything to add, Shay?
The whole psychology behind inviting your clients to Samir's class, that's amazing, right? Because it's kind of like the takeaway. And then you said, I'm not ready to make a decision on you either. That's really good. Because like, wait, hold up. What you mean you're not ready to make a decision on me? Well, let me just go in here and see what this is. You know what I mean? So you're